Hey everybody, welcome back to Crack to Be Gamer. I'm your host Cyrus, and we're doing something a little different. On April 1st, you might have seen that Minecraft did their annual prank, but it wasn't so much of a prank, it was a really awesome new snapshot called 20W14 Infinite. They were claiming this was going to be the new way of the game, that there were infinite worlds, and they kind of weren't lying. They used over 2 million possible different dimensions, randomly generated, some that you could kind of customize. So I tried a few of my own, and this first one was called Alpha. I just added it into a book, and then you would throw it into another portal, and then look at this. This is really awesome. This was about the first little world that I got to walk into, and it was a huge fleet of end ships and magma blocks on the ground. Of course, I'm playing in creative, but you can see that all these crates, all these chests have kind of the same thing in them. And this is all procedurally generated, randomly generated with chunks and random blocks and interesting things, and you can see the colors and everything are really vibrant and strange. Went into some of these ships and you could see that there was some brewing stands with stuff already cooking, and then some chests in here that have very important book, and they're called orders. Sort of another randomly generated, procedurally generated code, because there are 3 books. The one that you can write yourself, the books you saw me get from the beginning, those chests that you could spawn, and then those found in chests called orders, and they have nothing but layers and layers of randomly generated alphanumeric codes inside the book that generate these worlds. This next one I called Mojang. That was both the name of the book and the text in the book, and this is what came out of it. While the first one was really intense, this one's really sparse and kind of wide open. You can see that as I'm flying around, this is kind of like just an open world with end stone and maybe some, what's that, red wool, orange wool. Kind of plain, kind of boring, but if you go down below the surface, it gets really dark, just like it does in the main world. If you're below ground, it gets that dark, rich, atmospheric color. So that's kind of cool to see that a lot of the things you could expect in the world still make an impression. And I love that when you throw these different books in, the color of the portal changes. So you can see me look back here in a little bit at some of the different colors. They're really, really vibrant. And this one I wrote in Creeper, and I was first blown away by the... those are bone blocks, but they're like super intensely yellow. The next thing I noticed is that I was lagging even more than normal, and I couldn't at first figure out why, so I had to fly around just a little bit, and then I started looking down below, since almost everything in this world is made of wood, except for these gray hoglins, of course. There's some magma down there. And magma means fire, and fire means lag. So the whole world was catching on fire. I had to get out of there. A nice gray portal this time around, and we are flying through my namesake, Falconis. Nothing really special here. We've got like black roses in pots and blue wood. I don't really know what's going on here. There were a lot of floating end gateways, and that may have added a little bit of lag just because of the texture floating around in them. But there was nothing else really interesting about that world, which I was kind of sad about. Nice bright pink color for this portal, and this was pretty awesome. Almost every block here was a different color of wool. These spheres just kind of rising up along these spires of clay or terracotta, and then these weird smoky elements, just like you'd get, I guess, from a campfire or anything else, but they're floating, they're moving all over the place. So it's kind of interesting how you might run across something like this in just an accident. You know, it's a bug or it's just procedurally generated, but who knows, that might be useful in another game type. So something the developers can kind of accidentally come across, something that'll enhance the game in the future time. Another pinkish, almost a tulip color. You can see purple, grayish pink, pink. Just to start off, that red terracotta looks really interesting as a floor. But then more pillars of wood, little potted plants down below, and you see more magma. So magma and wood equals fire, and everything started to lag out. So I couldn't stay in this area too long. And then you can see there in the background some big pieces of end cities. So I think that as a survival server, this one might be interesting, except for the fact that everything is catching fire, and it's probably not going to go well if you stay there too long. Alright, and you can see some of these, I have little code numbers at the bottom, and that is the just the number that's generated from those bookshelves that you saw at the beginning. Mostly brick. There is some sandstone here, and it's interesting. These are all brick half slabs, and they're set at the top position, so they create this kind of layered, flaky crust kind of look. And then down below we have these almost burger patties of dark oak stairs, or those spruce stairs. And then beneath the water, it's kind of a juicy pink colored water. So it's like someone spilled high C punch everywhere. And then I noticed this big pillar of basalt, and that's going to be in the new snapshots with the nether updates. But then I kept hearing these explosions and all of this noise, and I looked around everywhere trying to figure out where it came from, and I decided to dig up through the nether brick roof and see what I could find. And an even more alien world was above this crust of bedrock. Lots of green wool blocks, and then big bone structures are supposed to be the big underground fossils. So I just kind of kept peeking around, and that's when I saw movement below, like little ants, and I realized those were withers, and they were launching their skeleton blasts of arcane energy. And kind of a dangerous place. This would be probably murder for a for a survival server, but up and beyond, it was nice and peaceful. Another generated book, and the portal this time is a great swampy green, and this is where I first saw a color that I call Fruity Pebbles. This really interesting kind of shades of color that are happening to the water that you might have seen on some of the end stones before, and just even down here below on this wool, it just kind of reminds me of a big bowl of Fruity Pebbles with that kind of milky subtexture between. And more end gateways all over the place. You'll notice in some of these end gateways, those big end ships all kind of are a running theme. You can see kind of the weird text inside there. And look at that portal. That one's strange. I saw that a couple of times. And here we have water droplets coming down from a water source above everywhere with all of these potted plants. It was really a unique look, and then some weird glowing staircases floating in the middle of nowhere. But this is when I started seeing that sometimes these empty spaces that would be used as below ground or above ground were just glass, nothing but millions and millions of blocks of grass. And then down here, the water is so murky, it's so dark. I think that's pretty awesome. I think that could be used in future biomes. You have a swamp, and maybe you have a haunted swamp or something like that, just to get a richer, darker look to the water, because we've already seen that in some of the newer biome updates with how water at the swamp is darker, and even if you're in a tropical climate in the oceans. Kind of a smoky pink portal this time, and yeah, we've got more end ships. Different color this time. We've got more kind of tans and browns, and then below ground here, or down on the ground rather, of course we've got creatures, but this was kind of interesting. A lot of illagers, a lot of blue colored magma blocks, magma cubes, and then these signposts are just holes down underneath the ground into the infinite abyss below. So yeah, this had to be a randomly generated concept, because I don't know why anyone would do any of that. But the ships are kind of cool. Kind of gives you an idea for maybe if you want to do a different colored ship for like a Navy fleet or something like that. I don't know. Not my favorite. You can barely tell the color even changed on that portal. That's why I had to check it twice. And a lot of dark Prismarine, which is one of my favorite blocks in the game. But again, we're looking more at end cities with the kind of the purple blocks, and some end stone and the dragon's heads at the front of the ship. But then I started looking around, and flying upward, it was a super tall kind of a biome, which looked really, really great. So it was so much fun just flying upward. Kind of reminded me of the intro to the movie Tron. But then I went back down below, and I noticed it was a little more interesting. We've got all these sort of wall pieces, sort of a sandstone wall, but it's never that color. This is more of a rust color than you're used to seeing. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then even deeper below, we've got this solid glass floor down to the abyss of nothing, and then there's more, I don't know if those are fence posts or if that's bamboo or what. Missed that shot there. Let's try again, and now I've back to some of the orders that were the randomly generated ones we found in the chest before. And now, yep, here we are, another end fleet, but the colors this time are insane. Definitely not complementing colors. We've got purple and green and dark green and beige, and some magma cubes jumping around, so I just moved on from that one. Nothing really too interesting. Another set of orders. This one I found pretty fascinating because you get some variation in the color of the sky, but I think that's because we're just having the sun rise and sunset very quickly. But it's just a giant wasteland. It's all like terracotta blocks with dead shrubs for miles and miles and miles. Now, the colors of terracotta did kind of remind me of Neapolitan ice cream. That was kind of neat. But just a giant wasteland. Yeah, look at all the different colors. That would be fun to do on purpose if you had an option to do that, to know where your gateways go. But this set of orders went to somewhere where everything was tinted this neon slimy green, and I think it's kind of cool, but I don't understand it. It doesn't jive with my brain. And flying around, I noticed some kind of beacon lights that were shining. I heard some noises, and that's when I saw an Ender Dragon. He's just flying around, tearing stuff up. He is angry. I don't know what set him off. I didn't get up in his face too much, and then I noticed another, and I started to get concerned about lag because those guys are pretty dangerous, and the longer I waited, more of them started spawning in, so I thought it was a good time to leave. I wish I knew what block this was. It might be just a weird goldenrod tinted wool or hay texture or something like that, but kind of a barren landscape. But what was interesting is I started to recognize how everything was generated. So this would be the nether, basically, is generating as the nether would, but then we started seeing more dragons, and I figured I need to get the heck out of Dodge. The white terracotta of this place instantly hurt my eyes. That was... I saw it used underground in the water, and it kind of did look like coral, and I thought that looked kind of nice, but here, nothing really makes sense. So I dug down below, and there were little chunks of purple stuff, but beyond that, nothing else really interesting. And then above, it was just a mess of bedrock, of I think maybe some andesite, and then just more bone blocks generating. And then here I figured out that, if you use the same type book, you're going to get the exact same thing. So duplicate books do equal duplicate dimensions. Got another set of the infinite books, and a dark blue portal this time. And here we are with one of my favorite blocks, the dark Prismarine, with some interesting black glass rods. They're just single panes that aren't connected to anything, and they make kind of this wacky science fiction-y kind of forest, which depending on what angle you're flying through, they create these interesting geometric shapes, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Then above, something caught my eye, and it was just this sphere. So occasionally there'd be these random spheres of maybe Prismarine fence posts, but nothing much more than that. Nice gray portal. That one was a nice shocker. And this one, I don't know what that block type is. I've been looking around trying to figure out what it is. I'm sure someone in the comments could tell me, but I thought if they don't already have that as a block looking that way, that might be a really interesting sort of beach colored block. But I started getting super heavy lag again, and I figured out why once I flew over the edge. Look at that ocean of lava, and then down here it is actually a mine shaft, a full wooden mine shaft, which I've never seen a wooden mine shaft like that before. Sort of a light brown portal goes to this place, and I gotta say, I kind of like the idea of this glass floor, but you notice the top of the glass panes are white or slightly other colors, but the edges are a dark gray. That was really, really trippy. Some columns of basalt, and maybe, if that's basalt, then maybe that's what that creamy white block from before was. And I'm hearing nothing but lots of grumbling and growling, so there must be tons of illagers around. But yeah, the sun in this world is huge, and the moon as well. So sometimes they would be super big or super small too, which is kind of neat to see. Another radical green color here with purple terracotta everywhere. And then these blocks you don't really get to see, but they are the jigsaw pieces, which help generate buildings within the game kind of randomly in certain areas. So that's how villages spawn now. And I don't know where this started. I did a series of portals, some of them leading into another instead of starting fresh. This one was kind of cool because it had a really dark green tint to it. So even those hoglins were green, and the blocks are kind of in a green, aquamarine, blue, nice blend, but still just lots of junk spawned in the air. And I found a couple corners where there was some interesting shapes down below. Couldn't really tell what the blocks were made out of, if they were cactus or if they were other plants, but then they had these big spheres of just grass. Just grass on top of grass on top of grass. And I thought that was kind of cool. I thought there could be something to that. There's another mixed portal which went to this place, which I gotta say, while it's wild and completely silly, and I got stuck there somehow, but yeah, this is intense. All the colors are kind of muted into a darker level, but then down below you've got all levels of monstrosities. You've got ravagers, magma cubes, we've got phantoms flying around everywhere, and then I believe I ran into a posse of witches. I thought this was kind of interesting. You would think maybe illagers and ravagers and witches, but then the phantoms and the magma cubes came out too. But my gosh, I really liked just this huge random mix of colors. And then digging upward through, got some levels of glass, some flat plains, You could just see more of the diversity of the landscapes up here, and again, the little pillars of glass. And then from high above, you get that nice fade out of color. I thought that was really kind of neat, kind of serene and pretty. So I'm continuing down the rabbit hole here, and I went to what was basic. It's kind of reminded me of the old black and white movies when they would fly to the moon and think it was made of green cheese. That's what this is. It's a green cheese and moon kind of world. Now that giant purple moon was pretty cool. I kind of like that. That'd be neat if they ever add seasons, that occasionally you'll get a blood moon and maybe more mobs will spawn under a blood moon at night. But very boring kind of a world here. Although I did fly around and eventually see these cutouts where I could see that just under the first couple layers of end stone, everything else is made of orange glass. I'm not exactly sure what book I used. Maybe it was from that infinite book chest there beside the portal, or if it was from a set of orders. I didn't get to capture it on film, but I'm just stuck in this light blue abyss. You can't fly, you can't do anything. I basically had to just restart the whole game and go back to another level. So here is the last one I did. I want to do another text one. It's April Fool's, and at first I was disappointed. It just looked to be more randomly generated yellow, orange, nothing. But then I started flying past these beautiful colored carpet spheres, which I think are really, really awesome. Now, I did lag out, and I edited it from the video, but if you break one of those, the whole thing starts to collapse. It's really insane. But just seeing these flying around, there's so much potential, really. And then more giant shards of everything. I don't even know if these are, again, wood, if it's bamboo, and things like that. But overall, this was a really fun experiment. Really fun trying to figure out what everything is. So if you like seeing this video and you want to see more, please do comment and subscribe. And also there is a list of Easter egg word combinations you can use to find specific types of worlds. And I'd really like to show that to you. So if that's something you're interested in, please leave a couple comments and tell me that's what you want to see. And otherwise, I'll just catch you next time with more building, crafting, creating from Crafty Bee Gamer. Take care.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and to see more from us, check out our website at thefoundrycast.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for watching.